It's got, I think, a 57% win rate last time I checked, so has been doing very well here in Split 3 playoffs. But here in the regional finals, now they're going to have to go for, I mean, what could we be looking for? We could go for Xin. I still think that there are some really strong champions here. Azir is interesting because we have been waiting since Split 3 Week 3 to see this champion return here for Xiaohu. It has been a permanent ban for this team throughout all of this time. And so now it's a good takeaway from Scout. And there's no Jarvan in the game, so JDG want to try to disincentivize any kind of HP stacking tanks coming out from Weibo by grabbing themselves a Trundle.
Sivir Trundle is an interesting one too, but you're going to have a lot of map control, a lot of ability to zone in some of these team fights, which can be important against an Azir. Almost a gambit that JDG decided to roll, leaving Azir unbanned in these first three, seeing if Xiaohu was actually going to lock this one in, otherwise they just get it for free. And now we'll see what exactly they have planned for this, because certainly something that went into their preparation. Speaking of preparation, Light gonna get a real nice look at one of his favorite champions in the Kaisas. We already got two heavy hitters in the backline set up for Weibo.
Wow, and Nico made it through this draft. We didn't even touch on that fact. Poppy has been a permanent ban. When Crisp is on the lineup, you have to be afraid of that. When Tian is in the lineup, you have to be thinking that this is a champion that they're going to be able to use and abuse. But because Weibo decided to opt for both the Vi and the Rumble ban, the Nico comes on through, so already Weibo, they get to have their cake and eat it too. I would think versus a Sivir lane, you usually don't want to have a lot of early skirmishing. Sivir is just going to try to push you in early on and then basically do that for the rest of the game. But now you're going to be looking at this from JDG's side. I think that their team composition is a little bit weird from this perspective, because there's no real people for Trundle to ult. The Pillar is going to probably be the most important spell that he has this game. And Aurora can be really deceptive about dealing damage, but I don't think they're able to receive any kind of engage. And I don't see a real clear way that JDG are able to get onto this Azir.
It's going to have to be answered in the second phase of the draft. What is Xiaoxu and or Zhuo going to pick to fill out this JDG composition? Because right now, definitely looking a little bit more on the incomplete side, whereas for Weibo, already a ton of great setup here for, you know, team fights and the ability to dive into the backline for either Xiaohu or Light going to be very, very big. Is looking like jungle going to be the focus here for JDG. They take away that Nocturne, whereas on the other side, Karma being banned away from Zhuo. This is one of the few range supports that, you know, has kind of remained prevalent outside of Bard, and definitely a champion that Zhuo enjoys playing, and it pairs up well with the Sivir.
It would suck to go Skarner here, but I do think a Skarner could be interesting here for Tian. It obviously isn't great for the jungle matchup, and if I'm JDG, I'm thinking about supports that are still open. Most, in my mind, that are speaking out to me, Rel and Rakan. Rakan can be a bit more fluid in how he gets into the backline. Rel is a bit more telegraphed, but will force out some really important abilities, maybe like a Shrima Shuffle coming on through. It seems like JDG, they want to give their support a little bit more time. They're going to pick up a blind Renekton coming on. So, all right, I think there's a few matchups here. You can still go for the Yorick early if they want it. Ornn is still a champion that's going to be here in this game. Honestly, Jax here is really disgusting if Breathe wants to take it.
Talking about like a throwback for Breathe, that would be a fun one to see locked in. The Aatrox also was banned in that first game, so no surprise to see that one also be selected. Can be some solid frontliner without having to stack resistances, which can make you fall victim to the likes of a Trundle. So now we're looking at a jungler pick for Tian, something that maybe has a little bit more engaged. Would not expect that Sejuani, as it's the classic counter that you would pick a Trundle into, but the Zed going to provide a little bit of extra agency, a lot of explosiveness in this Weibo composition to try to even this series up.
Yeah, but they don't need explosiveness. We've got a Nico! Right? Like, I think it's okay from Weibo. I just don't see if they have a front line. Basically, if Weibo are winning in the early game, they're most likely also going to be winning later in the game. They have such an amazing amount of range thanks to this Azir and this Kaisa. Aatrox here is going to be so deadly. Like, I don't see very many champions that are going to be able to effectively deal with the Aatrox, but if they fall behind early, and for JDG, I think it is very easy for them to delete minion waves super quickly. You have a Aurora and a Sivir. Minion waves are not going to be a problem. Getting priority in lanes is not going to be an issue. But how they play some of these lanes and how can they get into the back line is going to be really pivotal, because there are a relatively short-range composition. They don't have very many dashes, and the most important player here in this game for JDG, in my mind, has to be Zhuo, who hasn't been great throughout the season. He's had good moments here in series, but really is going to have to step up in this one, as he is basically the only way this team can stop an Azir, can stop a Kai'Sa.
Here's the thing, though. You name 2 champions that he's going to have to stop and only 1 ultimate that he has in the depth charge to, point and click. Not to mention the Zed that's also going to be open on the map. So a lot of threats have been set up. So even if JDG can lock down one of Weibo's hard carries, the other 2 should have a relatively easy opportunity to do some work unless somebody else is able to step up. Whether it's a really clutch Trundle pillar from Xun, a nice flank coming out here from the likes of Xiaoxu, or just some other miracle work being done. Weibo have a really fun composition setup that I actually think works rather nicely. A lot of threats that can be thrown JDG's way, and as we've mentioned, not sure if JDG have the right answers for it.
Yeah, it's tough here, but if there's ever a draft that I think that JDG might be able to pilot in a pretty interesting way, especially from what we just saw from Weibo, I think it has to be this one.
Well, JDG made some magic happen in that game 1. Will they be able to have lightning strike twice, put themselves to match point? Here in Shenzhen, only time will tell as we're on to the way for game 2.
There is fan chants. Been missing these.
There we go.
Especially the JDG leader. He has been so loud. I missed his loud voice. We're seeing an early invade here from JDG. I think it's right when you have a Trundle. He's a disgusting early duelist, even against a Zed. And it'll be up to Tian to kind of pilot this in a pretty unique way. He'll have a lot of easy ways to gain priority early on, and he is just a much faster jungle clear than the Trundle. But it's pretty important there that we're seeing that he is not only not on vision, but it is pivotal for JDG to try to see what they can steal. And so they'll have a ward on the blue buff while they are here to steal away the red buff of Weibo.
Yeah, and JDG's red also has been warded by them. So even if Tian goes for a vertical jungle setup, they'll know exactly what is going down. You can imagine that Light and Crisp have their suspicions with Zhuo and Peyz walking from that side of the river to enter the bottom lane, but not sure if there even is going to be an answer, as Tian is fully exposed onto the map to start off this first clear.
Yep, so they know that he's going to cross down from his blue. He has no idea this is happening, because he has no wards across the river, so he's going to finish his wolves. What does Tian do here? Or what does Xun do? Because I thought he was just going to go Raptors into his bottom side camps. He does not know that Tian is going to cross into the river quite yet. There might be, I don't think there's an angle for them to go for a dive, but as soon as he sees this, he should be looking to go into that top side quadrant immediately.
And he's going to be able to navigate around that ward on the blue buff as well. So Xun will likely know that he's going to get invaded on once the red buff ward
now he'll show
exposes him. But at least for now, going to be a good spot as Xun going to walk back up to his bot side camps. He'll probably take the handshake of the vertical jungle at this point.
Perfectly fine with that. It's also, I think, really, really cool because technically this could end up favoring Weibo. It means that Tian will get access to his respawn Raptors a little bit quicker, and it'll be up to JDG to be on that timer, to be ready to contest. Scout has already used a bit of his wave clear and a bit of his damage thanks to this electrocute to try to pressure onto Xiaohu, see if we can get him to miss a wave, maybe blow a summoner early. And these two mid laners, all of 2025, Bloxer was talking about it on the desk, they've had very rocky years so far. It's a surprise if you haven't been watching LPL so far that Scout is performing at this level, and I think for me that we're seeing Xiaohu in this form. It's been a while since we've gotten this from him.
Well, speaking of some aggression up at the top side, Xiaoxu going to be in a lot of trouble. He was trying his best to crash that wave in, but he had no hope of doing so. Going to just go down to first blood, feed a kill over to the Zed. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Peyz and Zhuo getting aggressive and forcing Crisp to about 200 HP.
That's the problem with Neeko, is she is not tanky, especially if she doesn't have either her clone in front of her or the ultimate to give her that shield, give her a little bit of a buffer alongside the crowd control. So immediately Chris comes back in a lane, has to take a recall. This is going to be another wave, and for supports, their ultimates are usually the most game-breaking part about their kits. Neeko especially. So denying gold, denying experience away from this champion, I think very, very good. And instead of even going and picking up the wave, they're just going to give all of this solo over to Light. What is the lane swap situation going to look like? Are we going to continue to go back into these lanes?
Chris getting spotted out. He still has his flash available. He's going to have to use it, but the pillar from Shun is beautiful now. He'll match with the summoner spell of his own. One more auto attack is going to finish the job. And now Xiaoxu getting some trouble as well. Xiao has to flash away. Will be able to survive at least for a moment, but now Tian has to use that shadow to escape. Zhuo flashes over, and the weirding from Scout will make it 2-1 JDG.
What are Weibo doing? There are so many disturbing combinations happening. Xiaohu just TP'd back into that wave. He is now at 10% HP, no flash, no teleport. Scout, thankfully, is nowhere near having level 6, but he has a red buff now to himself, so he's going to get a hell of a lot of HP regen. And all of the early game kind of questions that we had for Weibo are getting answered, but in the wrong ways. Tian got cut off from most of his jungle camps. He didn't get his respawn raptors, and Crisp is really far behind now.
Not only Crisp, take a look at the gold lead again. It's like a repeat of game 1 in the mid lane. Xiaohu already down 500 gold, and we can see the start of this play again. Really patient from Shun to wait until Crisp's flash has been utilized before issuing that pillar.
And it goes right over the tangle barbs. Why is Xiaohu doing this? Like, you're walking straight into a Trundle who has pressed the attack and a Nautilus. You are lucky that Zhuo did not get an auto attack off. He uses the flash. Those are the respawn raptors. Light even misses a wave by moving over for this play. Weibo over-invests to try to save the support and jungle of their team, and turns out pretty fine for them. I mean, JDG now find themselves at a 1,000 gold lead split between their mid and bottom lane, and they've had complete control of the bottom side of the map the entire 6 minutes of this game.
Yeah, I mean, we thought that we saw some good stuff at the start for the bottom lane, but now in mid lane, Xiaohu almost gets taken down solo to Scout, who reaches that ultimate threshold first. And you know, Tian's going to be able to kind of grab some of this wave, but he's going to be in some trouble underneath his own tier 1. Shun jumps in, and probably just force a little bit of damage back down. Xiaohu trying to desperately get closer to 6. He dashes forward, and he's going to at least make it a 1-for-1. With each mid laner picking up a respective kill. Nice for Weibo to at least get something back.
It's so important that Weibo get that kill because Xiaohu had to get level 6. He's staying because he knows if he doesn't get level 6 on this wave, his game is very, very rough. So getting that kill, he finally gets to touch the wave again and also prevents a plate from going over to JDG. So could have gone worse, but right now I think it's all hands on deck. There are some sirens starting to go off. I wouldn't say the red ones quite yet. Maybe a yellow, maybe an orange. But, I mean, Trundle's almost here to level 6. He's beating the Zed in the jungle clear department. And another red buff being contested by JDG? Weibo, what do we do? How are we responding to this? What are we doing to get us out of this position?
Not a ton right now. I mean, the reset's going to buy a little bit of time, but it's still not going to be enough for Tian to get down here and try to contest. So a second straight red buff stolen away here for Shun. Going to get him that level 6 mark and really set up JDG in a pretty solid situation. Once again, up about 1,000 gold. And we talked about Weibo having a composition that can snowball really well, but Snowball has not gotten rolling just yet.
They're not ahead early. The Azir is behind at least a little bit. It's not all that much. It's about maybe a 10th of a level at this point, thanks to rubber banding here for Xiaohu. So he's going to be able to push. Was going to get spotted here. Okay, so they force out the shuffle. Important that Xiaohu does have that red buff that we were talking about that was on Scout. It is now transferred over to the opponent mid laner, and that's going to help alleviate some of the trading pressure here from Scout. Early grub's going over, but it is on Vision, so it's only going to be 1 here for Weibo.
JDG should be able to clean up the rest. Hey, the fact that they get 1, even at this point, with how the game state currently is positioned, is at least a small win here for Weibo Gaming. With Zhuo still around at this top side of the map, should be a very easy 2 grub picked up for JDG. An area that we have not talked too much about is the bottom lane so far. And that was our featured matchup going into this pre-show, going into this best of 5. And Peyz has just been the better AD carry at this point throughout the first 2 games, and we're seeing it again in that CS discrepancy, now 20 in his favor over Light on the Kai'Sa.
I would even be willing to say that Peyz has been the better AD carry all of 2025.
Oh, for sure.
Light has been very questionable, as most of this Weibo roster has been, but Peyz has been nothing but delightful. He has been super on point about when and where he tries to find his fights. I think Split 3 was probably the worst we saw from him, and probably the worst we saw from JDG as a whole, as he was incredibly desperate just to find small wins, just to try to get something for this team, because they were dysfunctional for the entirety of the regular season, only barely being able to scrape by at the end, taking some very free wins off of lower-end teams, and eventually being able to end the season on a win versus Weibo themselves. Now it's going to be the Dragon going over to JDG. They got the first 3 kills of the game. They're going to get at least the first 2 objectives here. I gotta say, whatever the break was between JDG ending 4th in the season and coming into tonight, it has done them well.
We're wondering if that could exist maybe for Weibo, who even had some more time than JDG to get right here for the regional finals, which they have found so much success in over the past 2 years. That has not happened just yet. They have looked like the still inconsistent Weibo. Light has not become the Light that has been able to be good in these regional finals, and Weibo going to try to find a play here on a Scout, but he just pops between worlds and is going to be able to get out just fine.
Okay, but Scout has no ultimate, and while there isn't an objective to play for, you can kind of see that Weibo are really not shifting their weight around. This should be a very strong point in the game for at least Tian, who has already completed the Eclipse, but Xiaohu doesn't have his first item quite yet. I think Scout just flashed in mid lane and traded it with Xiaohu.
Okay, we get the Dominus popped here up on the top side. Breathe has the world under the Q3 and the healing, going to keep him very much in a good position. As Xiaohu goes with the empowered Q, and those flashes were traded, as you mentioned, and that means that Tian has a great opportunity to go forward with the death mark and get himself his 2nd kill of the game.
This is the problem with this matchup, is that if you cannot put Azir down sufficiently enough, this can end up happening where Azir lives throughout some of your burst, and then opens up a window, as we saw. So great job from Tian to get at least a bit of reprieve in this game. He's going to have 4 of his camps respawning in a few moments. He's going to be able to do a full clear of his jungle. And then we take a look at what his inventory is. Xiaohu's also going to be able to catch in a wave. We were talking about early advantages going over to JDG, but now the gold deficit has closed up in a pretty decent way.
And we talked about how, Weibo would love to get the snowball going and be able to get accelerated on some of these high damage carries, but their late game overall, you take a look at the champions on your screen, going to be very solid, specifically for Xiaohu and Light. So getting another kill, in that mid lane onto Scout, going to continue to be important. Even if they're at even game state, not going to be the end of the world. It's not one of those compositions that has to be ahead. It's just one that would prefer to be ahead.
Yeah.
Right now they're just even, which is okay at least for now.
I love this coming in from JDG. We saw this in game number 1. If you have a mage on a side lane, and this goes for everybody at home, if you have a mage in a side lane, especially one that can't move very easily or gets trapped, just move. Just try to play to their side of the map, and with a Trundle with Trinity Force, they found an angle.
Xiaohu gonna get collapsed upon, but a nice Pop Blossom comes in from Chris to try to slow things down, but Scout will still jump forward and take down his opposing mid laner. Tian dashing in, does not have that ultimate, and doesn't want to use it just yet. The Between Worlds gonna find so much damage, and that's gonna be another kill picked up here for Peyz. A double kill for the Sivir, and it's Breathe trapped in a 1v5 underneath his own tier 1, which falls before his eyes, and more kills go into the hands of JD Gaming. Only Light remains in the mid lane.
What is going on Weibo? Because it just seems like this team doesn't want to play together right now. Like, we talked about the rumors of Light and Chris not wanting to be together. That's why we saw Chris go over to Top Esports at the beginning of the year, despite the fact that we've seen this duo for 2 years before this year. But what is this fight coming on through? You should have been able to just cut your losses here. A great hook from Zhuo forces out the ultimate. And look at where Crisp is. We're landing this onto a single member. It was a flash from Shun that prevents him from getting hit, but the teleport isn't even here. Kai'Sa is nowhere near, and there's no crowd control. Who is going to allow for Kai'Sa to come on through? This is a mess of a fight, of a response coming in from Weibo, and a great punish here for JDG, who not only get multiple kills, multiple summoner spells, but they get the turret on top of that, and they're going to have time to recall, spend their gold, and be ready for the Dragon or the Herald.
Weibo just walked in one by one onto JDG. First it was Xiaohu who got caught out, then Chris just jumps in and says, here, you can take my life too. And then Tian also not finding anything here with that death mark.
No.
The power that the Zed has in the early game. And all of a sudden, that lead that was basically 200 for JDG is now almost 3,000. And that is a very quick turnaround from where things were right before that fight erupted.
I'm tentatively nervous here, Grapes. Not because I feel any particular way about this individual game, because I don't know if JDG are going to be able to close out from here. I have been scarred. I have been burned. I casted the BLG JDG series, and I was like, okay, if this, we might just be done in 3. And then I had another 3 games after that. So I don't know. Scout's going to use the ultimate to clear the wave.
Yeah, between worlds, try to get away from the Zeb. The Pop Blossom still
Tian!
Tower. Tian, so much of a job, and it's going to be able to take down Tian, and Scout's going to live. Meanwhile, a dive in the mid lane is going to be a pretty good opportunity for Light to get something back as well. What is happening in this game? As 2 failed dives happen consecutively, 1 for JDG and 1 for Weibo.
Peyz is probably dead. Doesn't have flash anymore. Enemy team's also coming here to take him out. Why is Light stepping up? Light, you are very greedy, my brother. He gets the kill there. That's another shutdown going over to Weibo. It is Azir grabbing a top tier 1. This is as good as it's going to get, but Tian tanking too much turret shots. Maybe they thought that Nico clone was tanking or something like that. The solo lanes, I think JDG have done a great job in these 2 games already of escorting minion waves and trying to take down turrets for easy turret gold there. So Scout's gonna pick up another one here. A small hiccup here otherwise for JDG, but you're still fine with the game state right now. You are 3,000 gold ahead, and you need to keep that up, especially versus a Zed and an Azir.
We'll say getting Light those 2 kills on the Kai'Sa will be very important if Weibo want to have a chance to come back into this one. They're going to trade the 2nd Dragon for this Rift Herald, which will result in not as good scaling here for Weibo, but another potential for them to get a little bit more on the map in these next couple of minutes.
I don't even care about the map. Honestly, Grapes, I just want the gold. I need the gold on these structures. Like, whether it is getting Xiaohu level 11 and finishing his 2nd item, or getting Light a Rage Blade, we need to be getting our items in check here. So, JDG now open up. It is 16 minutes, and they have 4 turrets in a game where they are heavily outranged as the timer goes up. We're taking a look back at this. We talked about Scout using the ultimate, gets it to clear the minion wave. Even with Crisp getting the Pop Blossom, Tian, yeah, it was the Nico clone. Tanked up the minions, and then that was it. And we get to see exactly what we were thinking here. Okay.
This was
cool.
Well played for Light. We have to give him credit.
Yes.
And he got 2 kills off of it. Well deserved.
Yeah. Got the shutdown as well on the Peyz. So he's going to need to step up. Same with his mid laner here. And this was the problem we had with the draft for Weibo. There is no real front line for this team, so you need to be playing well in the early game. You need to snowball your advantages, and then let Xiaohu and Light carry you through these fights with their range and amazing teamfight champions.
Tian is going to continue to be a nuisance in these side lanes, finding Xiaoxu here underneath the tier 1 that has been taken down. Should be an easy kill. Another shutdown picked up for Weibo, as they are doing a nice job at finding opportunities.
Perfect. And guess who gets that kill? We're giving it over to Tian and Xiaohu. Like, that's exactly what I want to see coming in from these guys. Nothing for JDG to be able to earn on the opposite side, so it's just going to be Xiaohu getting alone time as the Emperor. Exactly what the doctor prescribed.
And we talked about some of the inconsistencies from Scout and how he's looked very good at the start of this series. Honestly, Xiaohu, it seemed like he was finally gearing back up into form, going into this playoff bracket. The end of the regular season was looking pretty good for him, but obviously was not able to perform in the lower bracket of that playoffs, and has not really delivered so far in the regional finals. But again, with the legacy that this player has, we're just continuing to wait for that clutch factor to show up again. And maybe it's here, now that he's gotten a little bit of gold going here on the Azir. Still behind Scout, though, which is going to continue to be an issue.
2 facts about this game. I mean, we're seeing Xiaohu play Azir for the first time in what I think is about a month and a half almost. They basically completely dropped this champion out of his effective pool for a majority of the regular season. And then looking at what Xiaohu has meant to Weibo Gaming as a whole. In these last 2 years, they have not missed representing the LPL as the 4th seed going in. And every single time, it was, holy crap, Xiaohu is the GOAT. Like, this guy is dragging this team, kicking and screaming, especially in 2023, across the finish line to bring them to Worlds. That hasn't necessarily been the case so far here in Split 3 postseason.
Which is why we're just continuing to wait and see. Is that Xiaohu going to arrive once again in 2025? Hasn't just yet, but still some opportunities. As I say that, Tian goes
What is
very
Scout
aggressive
doing?
for that blue buff and is going to be in some trouble. Chris is going to go down to the likes of Shun on the Trundle, but Light has still a good opportunity to issue some damage before Xiaoxu comes forward. It's a flash away from Breathe, and just a 1-for-0. That comes at the cost of that blue buff going down.
All right, no flash for Breathe and for Tian. You got the flash out from Scout, though, as a trade, and the timer on that is 30 seconds before the Otacon. Oh, no, Joel, this is the worst time to get caught.
Gets caught out on a ward. Should be another kill coming over. That Plasma going to do the deed as Light goes on a killing spree. And Weibo find another pick.
All right, is this going to be enough for them to be able to maybe contest for the Otacon? And what I want to note is, while Zhuo dying there definitely sucks, Tian is nowhere near this objective. You can see right now, Weibo, they want to get in on the action. You've already given the first 2 dragons of the game. I think that's fine. Can Azir, he's going to have to teleport back into this play. I don't think he's close to his second item. He really wants to get that Rylai's. JDG, they're not even going to bother to contest it. They know that they have control of topside thanks to this Renekton. Trundle's going to solo this, and it's not at all on Vision.
I mean, yeah, there's no idea in the minds of Weibo that this is happening. They're going to pop the Herald in mid and then suddenly realize, hey, where did everyone go? Right as the Otacon spawned so convincingly. Looks like they're not even going to be able to get in here. A Scout and Zhuo would have been a nice job blocking out Weibo at this point. And Breathe too far away to try to contest on a flank, at least for now. The Otacon's at 3,000 HP, but Tian's not even close at this point. They're still going to try to go for the flip. And he goes, but it's going to be secured by the Crocodile. And JDG have themselves the Otacon. Now they will collapse upon the Aatrox as Breathe is stuck in a 1v3. But Weibo has arrived. A Pop Blossom will land onto the Trundle, but Xiaoxu still gets the kill onto Chris. Hook lands onto the 80 carry, and Light is burned just like that. Xiaohu with the Emperor's Divide is only going to try to buy some time. It's already stuck in a 2v4, and
That's
JDG going to pick up another ace.
An Otacon going over, and 5 for 1. They focused all of their efforts to get rid of this Sivir. But JDG, they're able to stand tall. They grab themselves the objective. There's no ways for them to push, but a dragon can be theirs if they really so choose. We get a replay at this, and it's just too far here from Weibo. Like, Breathe, none of your damage dealers are there. Tian is not able to grab the smite on this play. And it's going to have to be a re-engage. Chris is already down 40% HP. Only able to get this ult onto Shun, but Shun is way too deceptively tanky here at this time. Zhuo comes on through. He gets an ult that lands both onto the Kaisa and the Azir, so there's your answer, Graves. You're asking how we're going to be able to lock down both with a single Nautilus ultimate. If they just stand next to each other, turns out it's a lot easier in that way. Not even Azir Turk can help save the Emperor. Look at that damage. Xiaoxu, man. Woo! That is my Renekton, and this guy, he has been so impressive for this team ever since his acquisition at the beginning of the split.
I mean, sure, Scout had a great fight there. Shin played well, Peyz played well. But the big difference makers in that fight were Zhuo on the Nautilus, locking down some of those crucial carries, and Xiaoxu on a monster flank. The 2 players from JDG, scooped out of the garbage bin from Group Nirvana headed into Split 3, are delivering here for these teams, trying to make it to each of their first international competitions. And they're doing a good job so far, being just the solid role players here on this JD Gaming team.
We are at 22.5 minutes, and JDG not only have a 5,000 gold lead, they find themselves on Soul Point. Very, very good start here to the series. It's only been, what, like an hour and a half, and we're already at the end of almost game 2 here with a Soul in 4 minutes. Impressive game time coming on through for JDG, but they still need a bit of close out. Still 4 minutes here for Weibo to really turn this game around. I mean, Tian is getting very, very fed. We talked about Xiaohu and Light having very big timers. Zhuo's just dead.
Whoa,
all right, there he goes.
Hey, sometimes the Fnatic Rush works. We have to give him that. As Light's going to get fourth.
There's nothing else for them to do. Like, look where the minion waves are.
Here's the thing for Weibo. They have a lot of dive potential, right, with the Nico, with the Zed. But the way their composition functions, you almost want to have them go front to back. That could work better just with having the range from the Azir, with having this Kaisa, and then finally striking when the iron's hot. That has not been the case in these past couple of team fights. JDG have been able to find angles that they like and ones that Weibo aren't able to take advantage of so far.
Great job from JDG, immediately clear that wave. That looked like it was potentially going to be an angle there for Weibo to take that turret, get themselves an objective bounty. Don't think Breathe is going to be able to grab this. You can see that multiple members of JDG are making their way down, and taking control of vision, so important. For right now, Weibo have all their vision on the top side. Breathe is
Get out of there, bro.
Oh,
Oh, he's been spotted. Okay. Breathes in some trouble. Thankfully, not going to result in many neutral objectives or anything. In fact, it actually could give Weibo an opportunity to push down the mid lane. They're going to get themselves at least that tier 1, pop that Sun Disc, and give themselves a little bit of power in the middle of Summoner's Rift. But they will not have their top laner for the next 40 seconds.
Oh, I think Shun's going to do it.
Oh.
There it is. He cancels the recall. Can they chase Xiaohu out? He has teleport coming up in a few moments.
Time to save the general. Xiaohu on the run. Scout and Shun chasing him down. Another blast cone could be big for him, and he will be able to use it. The Pillar are going to continue to slow him down. It seems like JDG still want the smoke. However, Scout's going to jump in straight to Tian's arms. Light goes forward, the Killer Instinct, and that will be the pop that allows for the Aurora to fall. However, Shun is still very tanky. Tian diving onto Peyz, not able to find the damage just yet. Xiaohu almost is able to do it. He does get himself the double kill, but it will come at the cost of his support going down. Tian uses the Hex Gate to escape right as the Baron spawns, but JDG still get the net advantage 3 for 2.
I think if you are Weibo, you cannot be too mad about that fight. Now, Tian should be able to get out. He has Shadow Clones. He's also going to get himself his Raptors. We can see, did Zhuo die again almost? No, he was trying to make his way over to that play, loses his flash, and that is going to be as good as it's going to get here for Weibo. You're going to have Dragon Soul on the cards in 2 minutes, and there's no flash from Shun, Scout, and Peyz thankfully saved his, but a lot of members here, and a very close game here going to game number 2.
Again, you have to be so impressed as to how Weibo somehow made this an even trade. You know, part of me was thinking they should just let Xiaohu die, but Tian playing this Zed game very well despite the circumstances.
Also, Scout is just giving a lot of freebies here. It took him a game and a half to start giving freebies, so we're already seeing a little bit of that Scout that we've had problems with throughout the season. It's a tough fight for them because you're walking into a setup Azir. There's no Nico ultimate, and all in all, this is a 2 for 4 play. Because remember, this starts with Breathe dying on the bottom side of the map, and then they do the yakety sacks running all the way up into the top side of the map. So we see them posturing around Baron. I don't think JDG need to be here. All they need to do is stop Weibo from being on this objective and set up for the Dragon.
Oh, but the Between Worlds going to find a lot of damage onto Tian, down to about 70% HP at this point, but it will be the Aurora ultimate now on cooldown along with the On the Hunt of Peyz. So 2 cooldowns that we're going to have to keep our eyes on as now Weibo venture back into the river and clear out some of this vision.
That's fine though, Weibo don't care about that. Those buttons do not matter for what this game is right now. Single ward here from JDG is going to spot them on this objective. Chris going to try and find a flank. I don't think this is a real contest coming in from JDG. We do not have the buttons, guys. We have Dragon in 30. Please.
Get Zhuo coming in with that Hex Gate. The Baron's already secured by Tian. And another kill goes over onto Shun. But here comes Scout coming back into the fight at full HP and trying to make some magic happen. But in goes Breathe. The Q3 finds 2. Light has a triple kill. And only Zhuo remain. Weibo finally find a fight on their own terms. And they will use it to their full volition. 4 kills and the Baron.
That's, I mean, great for them, but why the hell are we ever contesting this objective as JD Gaming? Now with the Baron, they're going to be able to hit at least this mid-tier 2, grab it with the Demolish Prop, grab the Dragon, and give themselves even more time in this game. We should not be fighting that as JDG. We just used 2 buttons to try to force out Tian. He's able to jungle privilege himself back into this game. Now, what? Why? Why? The Dragon spawns in 30 seconds. Just press tab. We're walking in. We don't have any damage. Look at where Peyz is. He's not hitting. Scout is still over the wall. Zhuo is still back in LNG. What is the hook?
Here's the thing. It's again another situation where whoever has the team fight set up in their favor ends up winning. JDG have been very good at finding the right opportunities to pick engages. That was not one of them. Weibo finally able to make them pay, and it starts with some of those ultimates being burned by Scout and Peyz, which allowed for Weibo to get into the pit in the first place.
Well, JDG, you're late by about 45 seconds here. The Dragon's already gone, guys. We are getting Scout the minion wave so you can get level 16, but you've now given over massive amounts of gold. Like, Aurora had an early lead. Look at Azir. Level 16, almost 3.5 items at this point. Light is incredibly fed at this point. So if we get a front-to-back team fight, Weibo should be advantaged. This was about JDG utilizing their early advantages and having to snowball. Weibo now get to be in that sweet spot in the game where they have the range and they have the damage kicking in.
And now, all of a sudden, the gold lead going back into the hands of Weibo. They still have the Baron buff for another 45 seconds. They've already claimed the tier 2 tower in the mid lane, now looking for one on the top side of the map. We see Scout not in a great position right now as Crisp already pulling the trigger. Landed that 3-man pop blossom, but there's not a ton of follow-up, just enough to zone the rest of JDG away from that tier 2 tower. That is the only reward that Weibo seek, and they will now go on to the retreat with Scout arriving.
No flash here from Chris. That is not going to be available in time for the Dragon. They're going to see if they can chase Xiaohu out. He has no flash, and he just used... Oh,
Out of mana too. He should just be dead. There is no reason for Weibo to try and save this Azir at this point.
Oh,
but
no.
Peyz is suddenly out of position as well. Why is he on this side of the map without the rest of his team? He's fighting a 1v2 against Xiaoxu and Jun, and that pillar doing a whole lot of work. Light goes golden, it only delays the inevitable. Jun gets the gold. And now Weibo going to try to find something on the backside of things here. Tian jumping forward with the shadow. He has to go and find a kill onto Peyz. The death mark's onto him, but it's not enough. Xiaohu gets the kill. And now it will be the Aatrox falling. A double kill in for the Renekton. And JDG are right back in front.
Okay, am I allowed to make an argument that I actually don't think this is that bad for Weibo? We'll see. Still 15 seconds. Xiaohu is going to be up in time. I don't think this is their entire base being lost, but all Weibo did was just waste JDG's Baron. They were not able to use this here.
We'll see. It looks like they do not want to continue to go forward. Just that tier 2. I feel like Weibo should have just immediately tried to exfiltrate there. There was no reason to continue to hover around after that tier 2 tower went down. It resulted in Xiaohu dying, and then eventually, I'm very curious to see where Light decided to base that allowed for that to get canceled.
So here's the thing, though, is that multiple members from JDG are split up now because they think that they're corralling him towards topside. They know that there are some people crossing over. Light walks through from Tribrush in the red, and that gives vision over to Xiaoxu. Like, we should have just been hitting the recall, like you were mentioning. So, cool. Weibo misuse their Baron. They miss out on now multiple of their members dying. And reminder, they will not have flashes for the upcoming Dragon fight. So they bought themselves 5 minutes in the game. We were looking good for about a minute and a half there when they had the Baron, and now they're going to be down so much tempo and so many resources in particular coming into this soul fight again.
It's an old adage I like to use, which is if you are able to withstand a Baron buff without having a tier 3 tower go down, that is a success, especially with the game in the state that it was. And so JDG able to hold the line nicely and set themselves up for that Hextech Soul once again that spawns in a minute's time. Also have the Baron spawning in that same time span, but I feel like JDG have learned their lesson. They're just going to focus their attention around the Dragon.
You have a 4-item Azir, 4-item Kai'Sa. If we cannot win from this position, we were never going to be able to win this game. Light's very close to level 16, so pretty decent shield coming on through, and with that AP Kai'Sa, he wants to be able to just poke away at JDG's front line.
It's another situation, though, where JDG are going to be in the pit first, which means that Weibo going to be the ones that have to try to find an angle out of a situation that JDG already find themselves comfortable in. Angle barbs land onto 2 as mid lane control is now the top of conversation. Both the Azir and the Sivir do a ton to try to wave clear. Light still not level 16. He's one wave away.
Breathe trying to see if he can utilize this flank scout as well. Any poke damage he can get. Oh, Shun loses half HP, and that's the Mikhail's down. I don't think Zhuo has the redemption anymore. So, ooh.
These Prey Seekers starting to do some work from Light as well. He's not level 16 just yet, but might have to go towards this Dragon anyway. As Breathe has spotted out Zhuo on a flank already. Going to be forced out of things here.
What
as
is
they
Zhuo
do
doing?
not, can't even use that Hex Gate. And the Nautilus is already down. Now it's 5v4 on the map for Weibo, and Breathe with the World Ender. It's so tanky on the front line. Xiaoxu, I should say, forced to pop that Dominus, and Weibo going to get another chance to deny the soul.
The support here for JDG just sold their team down the river. Why? In heaven's earth are we using a Nautilus ultimate on an Aatrox where none of our DPS are able to hit him? That was a waste of an ability. He dies for the play anyway. And now, Weibo yet again get to get themselves another few minutes here in this game.
preventing that soul from going over. I mean, this should have been claimed by JDG maybe 10 minutes ago, but instead, it'll be a situation now where Weibo are starting to stack up those Hex Techs, and the Baron is still on the table. Objective fighting is where the focus has been all game, all series long. And JDG have gotten the better hand so far, but Weibo, we're starting to see some signs of life for them, especially now that these big items are coming through. We get 3 full completed items on Breed and Tian, and the big carries Xiaohu and Light are oh so strong at this point.
JDG are still recovering from that setup around the top this Baron 5 minutes ago. Like, or 10 minutes ago. If they hadn't given up this objective, that would have been a very free, like, soul. That should have been soul point going over to them, or soul in general. So, JDG, we're getting really sloppy. This is the JDG that we know and sometimes hate from the regular season, making its ugly head here in this best of 5. It's JDG now with control over the Baron Pit and the river, and Sivir is going to be having a field day with clearing these waves, but I'm still looking at these carries. Scout is going to be doing a lot of damage towards someone a little bit tankier like Breathe, but aside from that, again, who on JDG is going to get onto Xiaohu? Who is going to be getting onto Light? These are big questions that I don't think that JD have answers for.
Look at Jhin right now as well. He is so tanky on the Trundle. The front to back for JDG is starting to form. Just the question is, what can their backline carries do? They're not as powerful just in terms of the champions and the damage that they can output as an Azir and a Kai'Sa that have been available now for Xiaohu and Light. Scout had a great early game, gonna have to clutch up here in a crucial team fight to send his team to match point, as both sides are now hesitant to start up this Baron, but JDG still have control of the river.
Can we look at the scoreboard real quick? Xiaohu is almost up 80 CS on his lane opponent. It's 2,000 gold. Same thing can be said for Light, and he's only up 1,500. That is insanity. And it's tough for JDG to ever start these objectives because of the Praise Seekers. These Praise Seekers are making it impossible for them, because then it's just fish in a barrel for this Kai'Sa. Let's see if we can get a Plasma proc here. So JDG, not only do they need to ping pong between mid and this side of the map, honestly, if they just parked Peyz in the mid lane, you could probably just have Xun and Scout do this by themselves. It's going to be Xiaoxu trying to get vision on that blue side. Xun, he's going to try and steal it. Not going to be the case.
Chain send him back in. Be a little bit careful. Look at Scout. Issuing some damage onto Chris, but having to force that Pop Blossom. Oh no! That's a big cooldown that Weibo will not have at their disposal and might make things easier for JDG to try to start this one up. Oh, Breathe! He gets caught out, but he pops the World Ender, is able to stay alive, at least for now. But the damage is already very much on JDG's side, and the Aatrox will be forced to retreat.
Aatrox will be able to teleport. Crisp, he has his heal. He's half HP, but he has no buttons to press in this fight. JDG, why aren't we starting this? They're looking to turn. They want to try to find a fight. They know they don't have an ultimate. That's Mikhail's gone.
He already sent Xiaohu to half HP. Dominus has been popped. They don't know that Xiaoxu is here until he arrives over the pit with the slice and dice. It is just a bait to try to force Weibo into a fight, and JDG pull themselves away from the Baron for now.
Are we going to do this, guys? Please. Nope, we're going to go ahead for another dance. It is a tango, but remember, every dance takes 2. And in this case, it's going to take all 10 coming in.
And that means that JDG are going to hop, skip, and jump away from the objective, as their health bars have now been chunked down by the likes of Light and the rest of Weibo Gaming. What a tense situation we have. It is just game 2 of this series. It is desperately needed here for Weibo. They cannot go down to the match point this early in the series, and with the back coming through, it is going to be Weibo starting this Baron up.
All right, Zhuo's going to be on his way. Scout. Oh my god!
Peyz takes the Hex Gate. Underneath is only going to be matched here by the Pop Blossom of Crisp, as the rest of Weibo are focusing their attention towards the Baron Nashor. It has not been taken out by anybody just yet. Light stuck in a 1v3. He's Zanya's away from the hook, but he's still going to end up going down. Big carry for Weibo out of the picture. And Peyz somehow still alive. Xiaoxu flashes forward, takes down Crisp, and here comes JD Gaming. Xiaohu going to go down, and now it's Tian and Breathe on the run, and Peyz on the wrong side of the map, but every side of the map is right. If your name is Peyz and you're the AD carry of JDG, down goes Tian, and down goes Weibo. JDG have just secured match point.
That's going to be it. They're going to use this mid-wave to end the game here. A dance around the Baron for what felt like 8 minutes in a row. Finally, JDG are able to tussle. They catch out Crisp, and that's going to open up series point here so early on here tonight.
an unbelievable finish to that last team fight. A sequence around the Baron that seemingly lasted for ages. But it's JDG that end up coming out on top. They stifle the comeback of Weibo and will go up 2-0 in the series.
I don't know. I would like to think that in a regular reality, we are saying, okay, Weibo can bounce back, but that is a really tough loss. Like, the fact that you were able to bounce back into that game, you get a lot of chances because JDG give you angles. I think Weibo are going to have to lean on their experience of a lot of their veterans here to kind of right the ship. I can't imagine they're going to let one loss or two losses here potentially tilt them out, but they are now a single game away for the rest of this series from no longer making Worlds.
Something that hasn't happened for them in quite some time. And again, this is typically Weibo's comfort zone, being here in the regional finals. They took down JDG in a 5-game set just a year ago. But right now, it is not looking good for them. It seemed like that was the opportunity for them to strike back, pull off the comeback, and even things up. But instead, it is JD Gaming that have 3 games to win just 1 and have an opportunity to go up against Invictus Gaming for that fight for Worlds. That's it for us here on game number 2, as JDG have taken a commanding lead over Weibo. Let's send it on over to Slayer, K-Man, and Bloxer on the analyst desk.
You know, Grapes, I normally say thank you for tossing it back to us. I don't actually want to talk about that game, personally. Guys, K-Man, how can we find a way to not give either team a win? That's my thought-provoking question for you.
I want to remind everyone that this series it makes you 1 series away from Worlds. We are right there at the pinnacle of League of Legends esports, and you know, maybe there's still some tightening of the screws that need to be done with some of these teams and some of their strategies. But you know, at the end of the day, somebody had to win, and JDG was the team that was able to capitalize on the AD carry misposition a little bit more, and they're the team to walk across the finish line.
App description. K-Man took it safe, Bloxer. Now, give me the real truth of what we think after that.
Y'all, both of y'all, after I was like, the vibes for this matchup are stinky, they're bad, you were like, oh, I don't know, like, I'm excited for this. I knew this was the League of Legends we were going to get. I was surprised in game 1, because that was a JDG that looked pretty clean. They made that one kind of mispositioning error around a Drake bottom lane, and that was sort of the one moment we were like, are you sure that that's how you want to set that one up? Apparently, JDG answered yes. They set almost all of their remaining objectives up almost exactly like that, with nowhere near enough flanking wards, enough understanding of what's happening. This damage
LPL
graph is absolutely crazy. The goal graph as well is just...
LPL goal graph.
What did we just watch? This is what I was expecting out of these two. I'm impressed in parts with a lot of these players, and I think that's the problem for me in this one, where there were bits where I was like, Breathe played this really well, Xiaoxu played this one really well, moments where Peyz pops off, moments where Light pops off, but almost nobody in this series, in this game specifically, put together a clean 40 minutes.
You know what's so funny? Can't remember what Bloxer just said. App description, Bloxer, almost. Because there are 2 people on these teams where there was never a point while they were making good plays. Maybe 1 pop blossom from Crisp on the top side. Outside of that came in, my lord.
Yeah, we're even going to go more in depth on that as we, pull up some clips later on in this death segment. But yeah, this was a game to forget, I think, for Crisp on the Nico. Certainly one of those where you are relying on this Nico. I mean, when you look at this draft and you see the Azir and the Kai'Sa, you need the Zed coming out in the jungle. Like, you need clean, efficient setup to actually be able to get onto the backline when it comes to this draft. And Nico is that setup. Now, we were talking, while the game was going on, likely you're going to have to give your life. It's okay to have a couple of deaths in this game. That's kind of your job as the engaged support here. But some of these were just egregious, and the setups were just not there. And when that whiffs, when Weibo can't find that first go button, they don't have a plan B. They don't have a second option. They need that to work, and oftentimes this game, it just wasn't.
Yeah. this is the problem with this kind of composition, and I think that's where a lot of the weird plays in this sort of stemmed from, was the fact that the drafts from both of these teams were a bit odd. They didn't necessarily have some true identities to them. You've got half of a just full engage into the backline composition going on, and it meant that your Nico needed to hit the big pop blossom, and then everybody needed to be able to fling themselves into the backline too. If you've got yourself a just slightly more standard jungler in this game, right? The Jarvan from last game, a Xin Zhao, a Wukong, anything like that, you get to follow up, but also have a little bit of tankiness, have a little bit of extra survivability in amongst this fight, and then it's fine if your Nico doesn't quite find the full engage. It's okay, you've got someone else to follow up. The Zed has to just go pop somebody. Often that somebody was himself, wasn't able to find a lot of effectiveness in these fights, and so that's weird. Then you look at the other side, over on JDG, and you've got a situation where you're trying desperately to protect Peyz, but you've not got a composition that actually can do that in a lot of situations. Zhuo missed a lot of hooks as well. I think both of these supports had a bit of a rough one. And Scout, great first game, excellent first 7 minutes of this one for him, and then in the mid game just wasn't finding it, and it just led to this messy situation in which you've got teams throwing everything at each other, but no consistency, no real plan, it feels like, going into the big fights.
Yeah, I want to save a decent amount of my thoughts for when you guys are able to more eloquently break down some of this, but listen, some of these fights are just, I don't want to steal a lot of the thunder. Some of these fights are not very reassuring for whoever takes on IG, even no matter what you think of IG right now. I'm not factoring IG. And then more importantly, when you go to the international stage, right? So if either of these teams can even do that. So yeah, we talked about even in game 1 for JDG how clean things looked, like getting cleaner, because you need to be if you want to go to Worlds. It's a win, but it did not get cleaner. However, the cleanliest player for JDG, I think, will be their player of the game in this one. I'll stake my claim quickly, and then Blocks, I'll let you go first, K-Man can follow. I think it is going to be Xiaoxu on this Renekton. I think the Renekton was most impactful across a majority of part of this game.
I think so too. He was just really useful in a ton of these fights, even though sometimes he wasn't quite getting that second slice and dice off, so he wasn't quite able to get a lot of stuns. That first one was enough to just buy the space, buy the time, keep people off of a couple of these main carries, and in a game that was mainly devoid of somebody who was able to absorb a lot of damage and then buy space, I thought he was the best part of this game for them. We'll see if the voters agree. They think Jun. I don't hey, hate this
Hey,
again.
Listen, the KDA
One
over 2 games for this guy
is
pretty high. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had some really good mid games, and I'll say this for Shun in particular for this one. We can talk about a lot of the positioning mistakes that came out from members of Weibo Gaming towards the end that gave a lot of the tempo and gold back to JDG, but it was the Trundle pillars that ended up being the defining pieces that were able to allow those catches to happen in the first place. You know, I think Shun is playing really well, but, you know, in these games that are so chaotic and so open-ended, I think it can really go a lot of different ways. I can understand wanting to go for maybe a player that was a little bit more stable throughout a majority of the game.
All right, well, we've gone through all the, you know, the house, the tidying of the house when it comes to those post game. Let's roll the sleeves back and get into the nitty gritty, guys, with you two taking center stage here for me. First, though, Bloxer, you were talking a little bit through it during the highlights, but take me back through this draft, and I'll put on my analyst hat for 1 second.
Okay.
This time it's not Light's fault, but man, what a not fun game to play Kai'Sa in. It's just unfortunate.
You've almost got a composition that kind of makes sense with the Kai'Sa, with a lot of dive buddies that can go into the backline with you, but none of them that then get to help you once you're there, right? You want some dive buddies that get into the backline, that's like the Pantheon, who then provide you with something, block some damage incoming, maybe, if you've got yourself the Xin Zhao as well, or stun people up. No, with this, you're just both trying to dump damage, and into the composition you're playing against, I don't know how much you're really going to be able to do. And then on JDG's side, again, Peyz is the best player that they've got on this squad. He's been popping off so much, but this is not the game that I would want to be playing the Sivir. You don't really have some true frontline that want to stick with you. You've got frontline in theory, but at the point at which you're sat with your Renekton, your Trundle, and your Nautilus all's just with you, you're not playing these team fights correctly. You don't have anybody that wants to stick back alongside, and it it didn't work overall, and it is the main reason that these fights got as messy as they did.
I completely agree with you, Bloxer, in almost every way. In fact, I think I'm even more passionate that I hate both of these drafts in a couple of key ways. I really just don't think either of them make a lot of sense to me. I think for Weibo, you have this idea for, like you said, a dive comp, but with the Zed, it ends up turning into what is essentially a pick comp as this game continues to go out, because you can easily find access to one member and not multiple. And then you, on the other side with JDG, end up opting into some really bad individual matchups. I'm really not a fan of the Aurora this game. I think you're going to have a really hard time being able to play that out from a neutral state, in the right state, in the right situation. But as we can see from the clips, it really did feel like JDG were just going to run away with this at the start of, basically everything going down in the mid game. They had so much tempo and so much pressure throughout this game. And when this fight goes awry, when Crisp ends up whiffing a pop blossom after getting caught out a little earlier in the game, it just becomes very scary. It all leads up to this Otacon, which, anything can happen at Otacon. We've seen many an Otacon throw here in the LPL.
Taylor's hold his time with the LPL, yeah.
It's the throw objective, right? This is the place that you will mess things up. And this fight, right, it's very, very close to being all Weibo favored. You try your absolute hardest in this situation as Xiaohu to actually pull this one back. At this point in the game, though, he's not got any items that are really dealing damage for him. He's got himself a Nathjas and a Rylai's, so you're not hitting. But it just buys enough time. It gives you enough space to get further into this game, where all of a sudden you get yourself that voice staff completed, and hey, you're beginning to actually hit. And this play, I think all three of us were sat here being like, Scout buddy, hello? What are you doing?
Yeah, I think this is when we started to realize, oh boy, where everything we were kind of projecting in the pre-show is started to come alive, and no moment is more climactic towards that fixture than this Baron K, man. First of all, the first thing, why do JDG even allow this?
Yeah, I mean, the setup is illegal, first and foremost. I mean, even being in this position is already such a problem, because as a reminder, you're going into Zed, Azir, Kai'Sa, Nico. Like, what are they going to do? Scare you off if you run at them with Trundle, like Renekton? It just becomes so insane to me that they're even allowed to start this up. But then all of a sudden, everything goes down inside the pit. You get your Trundle getting blown up basically immediately. Shun's first death of the entire series, by the way. And oh, did I mention that Peyz's positioning finally runs out? The magical formula does not work in that fight, and the Sivir gets absolutely destroyed. Light pops off, and we're like, oh, Weibo Gaming are in control. There's no way that they lose this. They're Azir, Kai'Sa, and they're scaling into the late game. Why would I say anything? Why would the words even leave my mouth? Because Xiaohu gets caught. Nice Trundle pillar. Light is just on the top side for some reason.
That's the worst one.
Ends up getting caught as well. It truly is just a nightmare.
Every aspect. Even like Tian flying back in. Like, oh, guys, I'll clean up like a support kill here.
Watching this game back is just like, it's infuriating in a lot of ways. Like, it's funny. I'm enjoying watching the game, but you're also like, especially on the JDG side, I've just literally half an hour ago watched you play better League of Legends. And yes, these drafts are more messy. I don't like what you've got beginning this game as much as I did previously, but I know you can execute better. I just watched the entire game where I'm praising Zhuo, and then all of a sudden everything's missing and it's all terrible, and you're like, what happened? Where did the good players go? And personally, I would really like them all back for Game 3.
All right, speaking of Game 3, before we get back to those casters, I do want some quick thoughts into what we're going to see from Game 3. It could be fearless, champions you want to see stand out, people you want to see bounce back. Any of those, give me a quick hit. Bloxer, we'll start with you. We'll came in, roll back down.
Hey, I would just really like to see something a little bit more aggressive in the jungle here. We haven't been able to see any of these just like, hey, fly into the backline picks. I think a Nocturne coming off of the ban board might be really fun. Maybe we get to see somebody fully pull out the Pantheon. I think we've seen a lot of these high mobility compositions from a lot of other teams, but we haven't really seen it so far in this series, so I'd like to see them move more into this. And I think with all the bans we've already got, with all of the fearless things off of the board, this is the time for those junglers to really pop off.
No surprise here. I'm going to be looking in the mid lane. all of the macro threats are up. Talia, Galio, Rise, they're all still available in this series, and that could be a really big game changer. If you're able to set that tempo early, I think it kind of plays off of Bloxer's point. If you can get one of those aggressive junglers that you can pair that up with, play the Talia, play the Galio, let these mid laners actually go to work. Scout has had some great early games, in particular in this series. If you can get him on something like a Talia that can move around the map, I think that could really open up everything for JDG.
All right, some champions to look out for, some step-ups that need to be coming in full front for both of our squads. Love what you guys have put together here for the analyst desk, and that will do it for us here between Game 2 and 3. And I have gotten word that, yep, Alk Battery is back from his race. He couldn't get his uniform off, but he's back from his race. Him and Grapes will take you through Game 3.
Thank you very much, Slayer. Let's get